Hi, I'm Steve Adubato, and welcome to a very important, compelling program about public policy in our state and a little bit in our nation as well. We're honored to be joined by the Senate President of New Jersey, Steve Sweeney. Mr. President, how you doing?
Doing great, Steve. How about you?
We're doing great. We may be remote and one day in a studio, but we still have important things to discuss. Can we talk about state finances right out of the box?
Sure.
How are we doing financially in New Jersey a year plus into the pandemic from your perspective?
I actually think we're doing much better than anyone ever anticipated, Steve. Our numbers are good, pretty much across the board. You know, we were all looking at doom and gloom, but I think we're in a much better place than we anticipated. Thank God. I feel very grateful that we're looking at a positive and not a negative.
So in terms of the governor's budget, we'll talk about President Biden in a second and the $1.9 trillion relief package, if you will, and its impact on New Jersey. The governor's priorities in this budget, what do you see them as being A and B? Would yours be different?
Well, they might be a little bit different in the way they approach some things, Steve. One, I really don't want to create a whole bunch of new programs this year because we don't fund the programs that we have at hand. So, you know, I don't want to do an expansion of government. I want to fund what we need to fund. You know, education's important. The governor's funding it. I'm thrilled he's making the full pension payment. It's the first time in 25 years, I think, that the full required pension payment is being made. You know, it kills me, Steve. The pension payment should have been $800 million if everyone had paid into it the way they should. And now we're like 5.6 billion. You know, think about all that money that is you know, because they misused the dollars back in the days. And look, it's Republican, Democrat. There was just so many bad decisions made. And you know, let the next governor get it. Let the next legislature get it. And basically, we got to a point where there's nowhere handing it off. Our finances, like we're still challenged. Just because the budget's coming in good doesn't mean good days are ahead. You know, good times are here. We need to actually be responsible with the money that we're looking at.
You know, Senator, does it make it harder? Because every time you've been with us, you've talked about being fiscally responsible. I'm not going to say conservative, fiscally conservative. People can choose whatever word they want to use. But you said, hey, we need to be serious about our fiscal situation and the bills we have to pay moving forward. But now there's this massive infusion of federal dollars into the state of New Jersey from two federal stimulus packages. Can that skew the discussion about the need to be more fiscally responsible moving forward because we're flush right now?
Yeah, well, the answer is no. Whereas my daughter would say, yeah, no. You know, Steve, no, because we're flush today. We got to live beyond today. We have to look at the future, and the future is not shining unless we make smart decisions. And that, you know, this money can be spent over 4 years, I'm told. So it should be used and spread out so that we don't create cliffs. One of the big things that I'm concerned with is creating a cliff, whether like we gave schools $700 million in this budget. We don't want to turn around next year and say, oh, we don't have it, you get no more. You know what I'm saying? So we don't want to go backwards. We want to continue to go forwards. So it's just measuring these investments properly and leveraging these dollars so that, you know, we do have long-term problems here in New Jersey. Our water infrastructure is in critical shape. So how do we address that? How do we use some of this money to address that? Do we use some of this money, you know, to replace money, you know, with debt? So, you know, we had borrowed $4.2 billion.
Were you okay with that, Senator? I asked you at the time, way back when this happened, and I think you said under these extreme circumstances, you were okay with it. Looking back, still the right decision?
No. Looking back, we should have waited. But again, moments in time, Steve, is how
hindsight.
Like I said, it's like you got a 50-50 chance of coming out right with it. But I would like to get rid of that debt. Or look, the governor was able to get a really good interest rate. The administration got a good interest rate on this money. So let's find other debt with higher interest rates so we can buy that off. You know what I mean? Like reduce that if we can.
Can I do this on we're going to date ourselves because we're taping on the 23rd of March. It'll be seen later, but real quick, the marijuana in the state, that issue, legalization of marijuana, complex on a lot of levels. Help us understand, Senator, as the law is right now, may be changed, who knows. There are police officers, and you've heard them, they've spoken to you, that have said that we believe our hands are tied behind our backs because if a 14 or 15-year-old is smoking pot and we want to engage that kid, we run the risk, and by the way, can't call the parents, in the law, we run the risk of being accused of overstepping our bounds, of help us on, why is that in the bill?
Listen, a lot of members felt, Steve, that police, and I want to make this clear, our police in New Jersey we got great police, we have outstanding police. Are there some bad ones? Of course there are. There's bad in everything, but the vast majority of our police do an outstanding job. Some of our members, Steve, in my caucus felt, I live in West Effort. If my son got pulled over or got caught with it, they would come over, knock on my door and say, Mr. Sweeney, your son, was playing with marijuana. We want you to know. Where in Newark, they lock the kid up, and that's what our members feel. And I'm not going to challenge my members for living their life experiences, Steve. And when a kid gets arrested, your life can be ruined for minor marijuana possessions. You know what I mean? It's hard to get beyond an arrest record, but we are fixing that provision. That provision is absolutely going to be fixed so that they'll notify the families on the first offense. But again, my members, Steve, and I don't live in Newark, but my members say justice isn't evenly handed out. It's community to community, and I'm not going to dispute what my members were telling me.
Got it. Senator, the nursing home situation, when we had the governor on many, many months ago, and we hope to have him on again to talk about this and other issues, I asked the governor about the nursing home, the decision early on, not when we know what we know now, but then, about sending people back into nursing homes who were there and then got treated and came back, and the separation wasn't there, the personal protective equipment was not there, et cetera, and people got sick and died. Worse in New York, the Cuomo situation is what it is. But in New Jersey, when I asked the governor, he said, look, basically, we trusted the nursing homes to do what they said they were going to do. He said they didn't. To what degree, in your view, did the governor make the wrong decision? Or again, is that looking back based on what we know now?
Well, Steve, it's not fair in some ways to say you made a mistake. They thought they were making the right decision.
Right.
They thought they were making the right decision. Obviously, it was not the right decision. It was the wrong decision. Because they weren't prepared. The nursing homes did not have the PPE. By the way, the hospitals didn't have PPE. And I'm not known as a defender of the administration. You know that. But remember why they were moving people back is because our hospitals had been overrun.
That's right, especially the ICUs.
Yeah, we were over 8,000 patients in the hospital beds. And my brother's emergency medicine doctor, he was wearing. We had to get him a construction respirator with the big canisters on it because they didn't have them. Face shields that used for grinding because So my point is, we were caught flat-footed. You can't defend the decision to put the people back in the nursing homes because it was a mistake. But I go back to, if we knew today what we knew then, and they made that decision, that's wrong. But they didn't, Steve. They didn't.
Got it. I'm going to do school regionalization in a second, but I want to just do this. In an effort not to in any way be self-serving, but we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of what was NJTV in the state and what is now NJPBS. An experiment, 10 years later, it speaks for itself. People can decide. But you were a key player then and now. Your view of the role of public broadcasting in New Jersey at this critical time, particularly New York and Philadelphia on the other ends, and you're on the Philadelphia end, I'm up on the New York end, the role of public broadcasting in the state?
Steve, I think it's critical. we are hurt. The people of this state are hurt from the decline of the print industry. As you say, you know, we have a north, central, and south, and you get in New York, and I get Philly, and the center gets a little bit of both. And what we always valued was being able to get our own stuff, you know, where people actually can go and really find out what's going on. So I think, you know, what you do and the station does is critically important because you cover the whole state. You know, you're paying attention to what's going on in New Jersey. So I very much support public television. I always have.
And by the way, check out NJPBS, their website for NJ Spotlight News and all the other programs. Real quick on this, school regionalization. What do you propose? Got about a minute and a half left, Senator. What do you propose, and why is it so hard to get there?
Well, what I'm excited about, Steve, is that I have a bill that the teachers' unions, the principals, the supervisors, everyone's on board with. There's only one group that's not on board with it, and that's the superintendents. What we're trying to do is come up with a more affordable model of education, not taking the kids out of your kid's still going to go to the same school. They're still going to have the fourth grade teacher. The difference is instead of an administration, you're going to have a principal. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have more of a centralized administration. And this is a voluntary bill. And everyone I've spoken to has said if it was voluntary, they're good for it. And the exciting thing is there are districts in New Jersey right now voluntarily looking at doing this. So once it starts to happen, I think you're going to see that people are going to say, hey, listen, the world didn't come to an end. We saved a few bucks and our schools are great.
By the way, we'll follow up with the Senate President, Steve Sweeney, on this and other issues in a few months. But, Senator, I want to thank you so much for joining us from the southern part of the state. And we look forward to continuing the conversation about important policy issues in New Jersey. Thank you, Senator.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
You got it. I'm Steve Adubato. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation.
Funding has been provided by RWJ Barnabas Health,
Seton Hall University,
New Jersey Sharing Network,
NJM Insurance Group,
Delta Dental of New Jersey,
Fedway Associates, Inc.,
Operating Engineers, Local 825,
Eastern Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters,
IBEW Local 102, and by these public-spirited organizations, individuals, and associations committed to informing New Jersey citizens about the important issues facing the Garden State, and by Employers Association of New Jersey. Promotional support provided by
ROI-NJ,
and by Insider NJ.
NJM Insurance Company has been serving New Jersey policyholders for more than 100 years. But just who are NJM's policyholders? They're the men and women who teach our children, the public sector employees who maintain our infrastructure, the workers who craft our manufactured goods, and New Jersey's next generation of leaders, the people who make our state a great place to call home. NJM, we've got New Jersey covered.